If you are coming back to the channel as opposed to finding this channel for the first time, you know not to come here expecting the easy out. I'm not going to just run through things as they are laid out in the ivory halls of the academe, right? I'm not going to give you the easy answers. We're not going to talk about the obvious stuff. And that's exactly what we're going to not do today. We're going to do today. It depends on how you want to take your double negatives. Mock Orange by Louise Gluck. Welcome to Strip Cover Lick, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in the poetry discussion playlist, now approaching 600 videos strong. I've got one for you today. Mock Orange reads as such. It is not the moon, I tell you. It is these flowers lighting the yard. I hate them. I hate them as I hate sex. The man's mouth sealing my mouth, the man's paralyzing body, and the cry that always escapes, the low, humiliating premise of union. In my mind tonight, I hear the question and pursuing answer fused in one sound that mounts and then is split into the old selves, the tired antagonisms, do you see? We were made fools of, and the scent of mock orange drifts through the window. How can I rest? How can I be content when there is still that odor in the world? Well, that's it then. You got to talk about feminism, right? I hate them as I hate sex, the man's mouth sealing my mouth, the man's paralyzing body. The only thing to talk about here is feminism, right? Well, I'm someone, I've said this on the channel before, who got through an entire literature degree without writing the feminism paper once, not one time. How do you get through an entire English literature degree without writing about feminism? Allow me. This stanza does exist. I hate them. I hate them as I hate sex. The man's mouth sealing my mouth, the man's paralyzing body. That is kind of the heart of the poem. But then we get this. And the cry that always escapes. The low, humiliating premise of union. There's a way to read this, and the cry that always escapes. That's one thing. Then there is the low, humiliating premise of union. That's the second thing. Or that cry that always escapes, that is the low, humiliating premise of union. The cry that always escapes. Okay, the cry during sex. That can be interpreted one of two ways. It can be a cry of despair that you were in that situation, or it could be a cry of pleasure. You do not have to be mentally there to enjoy it physically. So, that opens the poem up to an entirely different interpretation. The fact that the speaker here is intellectualizing. Intellectualizing sex. I hate them as I hate sex. So, do you really hate sex? Because sex, evolutionarily, is designed to feel good. That's the incentive to reproduce. Sex feels good. So do you hate sex, or do you hate the act of sex? To hate the act of sex without hating sex is to intellectualize it. And this cry that escapes could suggest that the speaker does enjoy sex. Then we come down to this final stanza. How can I rest? How can I be content when there is still that odor in the world? Well, we're intellectualizing again. Of course you can rest. Of course you can be content regardless of the odor that's in the air. Let's go back to the title. Mock Orange. Not MACH, which I think might be a more intriguing title. Mock, MOCK, Orange. What does that mean? Well, I stripped this from Wikipedia. Philadelphus, mock orange, is a genus of about 60 species of shrubs, tall, native to North America, Central America, Asia, and locally in Southeast Europe. They are named mock orange in reference to their flowers, which in wild species look somewhat similar to those of oranges and lemons. At first glance and smell of orange flowers and jasmine, but Philadelphus is a basal asterid, not closely related to Jasminum, advanced asterids, and among the eudicots, quite distant from citrus, an entirely misleading name for Philadelphus that is sometimes encountered in Syringa. This properly refers to lilacs, which are fairly close relatives of jasmine. The connection of the two shrubs lies in the introduction from Ottoman gardens to European ones. Effected at the same time by the Holy Roman Emperor's ambassador to the Sublime Porte, Ogier Ghislain de Bezbec, who returned to Vienna in 1562. The two shrubs appear together in John Gerard's Herbal as blue pipe and the lilac and white pipe tree, for the woods of both are pithy and easily hollowed out. I didn't have to read that whole thing, but it's interesting. The real reason for this is this. They are named mock orange in reference to their flowers, which in wild species look somewhat similar to those of oranges and lemons at first glance and smell of orange flowers and jasmine. Mock orange is something which is often mistaken by appearance. There is more intellectually going on than would be obvious. There is something separate from appearance to practicality. In this poem, I think what we have is a speaker intellectualizing, over-intellectualizing, and a speaker who is mistaken by appearance for something else. So, the intellectualization of the man part of sex makes our speaker hate sex, when what our speaker may ultimately actually be getting at is that our speaker hates the man part of sex. That is not what our speaker says. Our speaker comes out and says, I hate them as I hate sex, and then goes into reasoning about the man's mouth sealing my mouth, the man's paralyzing body. So the actual hate here is for the man. But it has been intellectualized by our speaker to be the entire act. But the entire act is not the lover themselves. The entire act is not the individual with whom that thing is shared or has been shared. It seems that there is an entire world out there to our speaker, but our speaker has not involved themselves in that world. Whatever type of sex exists without a man. So, That is what I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. There's poetry every Monday, and I hope to have you back for the next one.